Welcome back to All About Money. I am Chloe Fong. Joining me today is Francis Belin, the Christie's Asia Pacific President. We'll talk more about the city's auction market development. Great to have you on our show, Francis.
Thank you, Chloe.
And now let's talk about the current, market trend. It seems that besides the art-related trades, the wine auction is also taking off in the city. For example, an online and live auctions from May throughout June the 8th called the Visionary Spectacular Cellar Sale, featuring over 14,000 bottles of wine, fetched a total of $19 million. So Francis, tell us more about the details of the wine auctions. What are the highlights?
As you rightly highlighted, we saw a strong season for luxury overall. So, of course, wine, but also watches, jewelry, and handbags. It was a record season for wine ever. And we also sold that collection that you just mentioned was the highest grossing collection ever sold at Christie's. We rarely see on the market collection that sell up to $20 million. It's a collection of blue chip and very well thought after wines. You have Domaine de l'Ormonité, you have Firth Growers from Bordeaux, you have some of the most prized white Burgundy, excellent champagne. So it was an extremely well curated lineup of 15,000 bottles coming for sale. And what was particularly meaningful to us is the collector who was bringing it to the market to donate all the proceeds to the London Business School. So it created amongst the alumni community of the London Business School a lot of enthusiasm and I'm sure passionate bidding as well.
Got it. And also, besides the watch, besides the wine, there are also the watch and jewelry auction categories. They also caught people's eyes. And tell us, how about these auctions, these categories auctions go in the previous spring auction season?
Watches was our record season for watches. So record season for wine, record season for watches, second best season for 21st century. So you see that no matter how we look at this season, we see a lot of indication that the market is robust and the demand for good objects is definitely there. On watches, we had a great lineup with a single owner collection, the Champion collection, where we're selling we've been selling that collection for a few seasons already, with some record prices for some of the very thought after Patek Philippe. And we had our various owner sale with also a portion which was from a collection from the United States, so the Keros collection. So overall, we continue to see watches, whether it's vintage watches or modern watches, very high in demand.
Right. And following, like you just mentioned, about the record sales from the traditional sectors, including the jewelry, the wine, the watches, do you see these traditional sectors again emerging in Asia's market as key, key auction sales categories?
I think they are. We sell at Christie's. We sell 80 categories globally. We sell about 20 of these in Hong Kong, and we see depth of interest from collectors across these categories.
Right. And also, Francis, tell us, because I'm very interested in the emerging market from the NFT and the digital artworks, these kind of virtual assets or the virtual collectibles. How are these new industry compete with the traditional sectors auction sales? What are the interactions from your point of view?
We don't see it as a competition. We see it as an extension. We see it as an extension because digital art is a technical revolution that empowers and allows different type of creations, whether they are two-dimensional, three-dimensional, whether you add to this, smart contracts that create communities, like we've seen with the Bored Ape Yacht Club and so on. So we see it as an extension. We see it as a new category, just like you've had in the history of art. You've seen technological revolution that have empowered a different type of art. We think that it's a category that is here to stay. We think it's a category that, it's in its very early stage of adoption, will go through some sort of adjustment in prices, which is something we usually see in markets with new technologies being adopted. But we're very excited to be able to offer more digital art into our sales, because digital art has been around for many decades. In the late 70s, 80s, you started to see artists embracing digital art because the technical the aspect of transacting them was not there. It was not really being properly represented in the commercial art world.
And also, Francis, since you already mentioned a little bit about the market differences between Asia and probably the Western regions, so tell us, what are the specific differences between the two markets?
Well, one thing we absolutely see as a priority for us in the way we curate our sales is to offer the best possible global platform for Asian artists. So we've seen for the past 3-4 years, higher collecting interest for Western artists, which has led us to bring these artists into our sales in Hong Kong, but also into our sales in Shanghai lately in March 2022. But we do see, continued interest into Asian artists, whether they're classic, modern, or contemporary. And again, seeing that the most expensive paintings sold this season in our sale were the painting from Zawuki, which had been sold 5 years ago for far less than what it sold this time, shows that there is continued interest into Asian art. So again, there's appetite to bring more Western artists, but with our team of specialists, we are very carefully creating these sales to make sure that we create the dialogue of influence, the dialogue of artists, and definitely continue to offer a global platform to Asian artists. As a matter of fact, with the live streaming of our evening sale that is reaching hundreds of thousands of people globally and collectors in New York, in London, or in Paris, we actually are able to showcase artists like Chongda Chen, Ihuai, Zawuki to a global audience that may not necessarily be so familiar with them.
Right. Actually, another aspect that I'm quite interested about is like a lot of the local, art galleries, they are also promoting the so-called GLOCO, the term, like to promote the local artists' artwork as well. But then I read some reports saying that some Hong Kong artists' artwork are actually underpriced compared with the mainland or like other Asian regions' artists' works. So do you think it's true?
I think we're able to see across the ecosystem in Hong Kong increased opportunities for these artists to be visible. We broke the record for Firenze Live. We broke the record for Christie, who made its debut. I think it was in July 2020. So we continue to feature Hong Kong artists and give them visibility in our part of the market, which is a secondary market. And it's really touching to hear stories of collectors who actually see the works, they know the artists, and they, get a battle to beat in the room because it's truly artists that speaks to them, not just for the piece of art that they are thinking of acquiring, but it's the story of the artist that also speaks to them personally. So there's a lot of emotional connection, I think, to these artists. So all this added together, I think we continue to see interest for Hong Kong artists.
Got it. And also, Christie's Asia Pacific branch posted a record over $1 billion in revenue from the auction sales last year. Tell us, Francis, how did your branch manage to achieve this cheerful result despite the COVID-imposed economic downturns in the cities? Were there any innovative channels that your branch has been using?
I think the credit goes to our team of specialists in Asia, also globally, who's been really fantastic in curating, I believe, very interesting and very appealing sales for collectors in Asia. So it was a record year in 2021, despite the context of COVID. A few things I believe have been helping us through achieve these results. Definitely the first one is the quality of the sale that we put together, and that comes down to the quality of the specialist teams that we have. The ability we've had to continue to innovate digitally and being able, despite the lockdowns, despite the travel restrictions, being able to present objects through different digital channels, but also facilitate transaction, I think have been absolutely transformative for our industry and definitely has been helping our success. We were the first one in the auction, international auction to open the red account in China, so Xiaohongshu. We have 120,000 followers. We have massively ramped up our abilities to live stream all of our sales through multiple platforms, including in China. And of course, the kind of global super production that we have with the evening sale, I think is creating a lot of, having a lot of impact, and has been helping us to bring to people's, iPhone, iPad, living room, the passion and the enthusiasm of bidding that you have in the room. So this plus, our ability to present the objects remotely with a whole range of digital means, I think has helped us to achieve these strong results last year. And I have to say that not only was a record year for Christie's Asia Pacific for the work that we saw in Hong Kong, but it was also a record year for Asia Pacific as an audience of global buyers. So Christie's Asia Pacific's clients have been accounting for 31% of the global revenue of our firm, which is a record as well.
Got it. Okay, one last question, Francis. What is your forecast about the auction market in Hong Kong later this year?
Well, I can't tell for the second half, but I can say, having committed to take 50,000 square feet in Central in the Anderson in 2024, which we have announced a year ago, it's a testimony to our confidence in the art markets, in how robust we believe Hong Kong will continue to be as a trading hub for art, so all the collectors across Asia Pacific. So we're very excited with that big project. So there's another year and a half for us to do before we can open, but we'll be able to have a whole year long lineup of events from beginning of January to the end of December. So 52 weeks of exciting auction, non-selling exhibition, private sales exhibition. So definitely more to come in the curation of our shows 18 months from now.
Right. Thank you so much for your insights, Francis. That's a wrap for today. Very appreciate your time, Mr. Francis Belin, the president of Christie's Asia Pacific branch. We'll be back on HKIBC next Sunday night. I'm Chloe Fong. Thank you. Till next time.